Shalom, how's everyone doing? Today is day 28 of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, when we'll be learning Siman Daled, Seif Daled. Let's begin. Beveis hakise, in the bathroom, asur lahar b'divrei Torah. It is forbidden to think words of Torah. Kidal kaman, Siman Seif, as we'll see in Siman Seif. Lachein b'yoso shema. Therefore, when one's in the bathroom, tov sheyahar ba'asaku v'cheshbonosav. It's a good thing to think about your dealings and your calculations. Shelo yavo lidei hirhor Torah, right? So you don't come to think words of Torah. Oh, hirhor avera chas v'shalom, or to think things of avera chas v'shalom. Uve Shabbos. What about on Shabbos? She'ein lahar ba'asaka, right? You shouldn't think about like your business dealings on Shabbos. So therefore, yahar bidvarm niflam shara v'shama v'chadome. You should think about things that you saw, things that you heard, or something like that, to keep your mind occupied while you're in the bathroom. Right, so this is this idea that when you're in the bathroom, you're not allowed to think words of Torah. This is Mefarsh Gemara Maseches Shabbos. It says, this is Shabbos Daf Memed Beis. Amar Rabbi Bar Marchan Yochanan B'chol Makom Mutar Lahar B'divrei Torah. Right, it's always mutar to think words of Torah. Chutz mi beis hamer, chutz mi beis hakisei. Except if you're in the bathhouse or the bathroom. What's the reason? We'll actually see in the next Siman. The reason is really based off a pasuk. The pasuk says, Hayim achanecha kadosh. Your camp should be holy. And we learned that out to mean that whenever you're thinking words of Torah or saying words of Torah also, one has to make sure his camp is holy. He can't be in a not clean place. That's what the Gemara learns out from that pasuk. So therefore, Kitzur has this suggestion. The Magen Avraham quotes this. This is based off the Sefer Chasidim, who says that what should you spend your time in the bathroom doing? Right? You can't think of learning, so think about your business, right? Or on Shabbos, you think about things that you saw. But maybe we should have a better idea. Why not, when you're in the bathroom, don't think about Torah, but you could think about a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Think about a Kadosh Baruch Hu, maybe. If you look at the beginning of Siman Aleph in Shulchan Aruch, you look at the Be'er Halacha there. The Be'er Halacha quotes the Sefer HaChinuch. The Sefer HaChinuch says there are 6 mitzvos that one could really fulfill any moment of his life, and he just has to think about it, and he fulfills the mitzvah. Right, the first is Lahamin Shisha Eloka Echad Ba'olam. Right, if you just think to yourself that there's Hashem running the world, there's one God running the world, you just fulfilled the mitzvah d'oraisa. So, right, in the bathroom, it's usher to think about Torah. Right, that's usher. But maybe the next best thing would be to think about Hakadosh Baruch Hu. So you at least fulfill the mitzvah d'oraisa while you're in the bathroom of believing in one God. So, who talks about this? A few people, but the first person is the Chachma Shlomo. The Chachma Shlomo has a whole question about it. He says, "Nisapakti emuter lahar bo yisbarach hu." He doesn't know. He's in doubt whether or not you're allowed to think of Hakadosh Baruch Hu. You're allowed to think of Amunah and Hakadosh Baruch Hu while you're in the bathroom. He wants to say a kal v'chomer, right? If you can't think in learning, right? Kal v'chomer, you can't think about Hakadosh Baruch Hu, which is seemingly such a higher level. All right, such loftier thoughts than thoughts of Torah. But he says, that's not so true. Why? Because he quotes actually an interesting idea. Right? You might think this is not related, but this is what he quotes. All right, there's Rashi tefillin, and then there's Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. Right? Most people, they wear Rashi tefillin. That's fine. That's how we paskin that you're supposed to wear Rashi tefillin. But some people they're Yer Shemaim, they also wear Rabbeinu Tam tefillin. And he says, if you look at Mekubalim, right, the Mekubalim agree that there's this idea that when you were in tefillin, you're not allowed to talk sichas chulin. You're not allowed to say mundane talk, right? It's not respectful to tefillin. But the Mekubalim bring down when you're wearing Rabbeinu Tam tefillin, you're allowed to talk mundane talk. Why do the Mekubalim say? The Mekubalim say since you're already doing something so holy, right? They say Rabbeinu Tam tefillin is like the holiest thing in the world. You're doing something so holy, right? It doesn't make sense to ask your mundane talk. Why? Because he explains when you're wearing Rashi tefillin, that's okay, that's one level of holiness, and you don't want to disrespect the holiness, so you don't want to say mundane talk. But when it comes to Rabbeinu Tam tefillin, it's not shaykh to make it less holy, because it's already such a holy thing. So that's why he wants to say the same thing about learning in the bathroom. Right? So when it comes to learning, we say, learning's a holy thing, it's disrespectful to learn if you're in a place that's not clean. But when it comes to thinking about Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem's already that's such a holy thought that it won't bring down the holiness. It won't bring down the holiness if you think about it in the bathroom. So that's what really he wants to say. He wants to say that it's actually okay to think about thoughts of Hashem in the bathroom. It's Eliezer in Chelik Yigimel Siman Aleph. He quotes this and he says he doesn't know what the Chacham Shalom is talking about. He says if you look in the Gemara says an interesting line about Divrei Torah, right? It says Divrei Torah is such a holy thing that like even Tamei people could learn Torah, right? If somebody's tummy, he's allowed to learn Torah. Right? So he says that, Torah is a holy thing, thing about Hashem is a holy thing. They're both holy things, and Tamei people are allowed to be involved in them, right? Seemingly because it won't bring down their holiness. But there's a new din, there's a new halacha, that when you're in the bathroom, you can't think about Divrei Torah. And that's such a din because we have a pasuk. We have a pasuk that says your camp has to be holy. And it's not just about learning Torah, it's about all Dvarim Shebekdusha. Anything, there's a pasuk that says you can't do holy things if you're in an unclean camp. That's what the pasuk says. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter Divrei Torah. It doesn't matter thinking about Hashem. So he doesn't like this raya about tefillin. He doesn't think it has any shaykhis. So therefore, the Tzitz Eliezer says we do not accept this Chacham Shalom lahalacha. But it's actually interesting because if you look in the Chacham Shalom, he has another raya that you're allowed to think about Hashem in the bathroom, and it's a pasuk we all know. He says there's a pasuk. What are you talking about? There's a pasuk that says Shvisi Hashem Negdi Samid. I've placed Hashem before me always. And then he quotes the Gemara in Yuma that seems to say that Tamid means every second. So he says, how do you place Hashem before you every second? It must be that you even think about Emunah of Hashem in the bathroom. But the Tzitz Eliezer answers back and he says, what do you think the Gemara in Sanhedrin says? Right? We quoted this Gemara in Sanhedrin the first year. The Gemara in Sanhedrin says there's a machlokas how to learn the pasuk of Shvisi Hashem Negdi Samid. One opinion is that it's talking about when you daven, you're supposed to place Hashem in front of you. So obviously, tamid there doesn't mean every second. It just means when you daven, you place Hashem in front of you. And the other way to interpret the pasuk of Shvisi Hashem Negdi Samid is that when the king would walk out with a Sefer Torah, that's when he had Hashem in front of him. But he didn't walk out with a Sefer Torah every second, right? When he went to the bathroom, he didn't have a Sefer Torah with him. So he says, no, if you look in the Gemara Sanhedrin, it's very clear, Shvisi Hashem Negdi Samid is actually not every second. And it actually might be a proof that there's no idea about thinking about Emunah Hashem in the bathroom. So that's why, and that's what most poskim take that route, that in the bathroom, one is actually not allowed to, just like he's not allowed to think of Divrei Torah, he's not allowed to think of Emunah of Hashem. Even though, so now we're at a point that okay, so you really can't do the mitzvah of learning Torah in the bathroom, you can't do the mitzvah of thinking about Emunah Hashem in the bathroom. But now that we're on the topic, there's a famous Be'er Halacha about, in general, is the bathroom a place of doing mitzvahs? Right? So the Be'er Halacha quotes the Mateh Ephraim, that the Mateh Ephraim talks about, let's say somebody's in the middle of blowing shofar, and then he has to use the bathroom. So he should take a break from blowing shofar to use the bathroom, and then he goes and he starts over. Be'er Halacha has a very simple question. What's wrong with blowing the shofar in the bathroom? Right? You're not, blowing shofar is not thinking words of Torah. It's not thinking of Emunah Hashem. You're doing a mitzvah, but what's the problem of doing mitzvahs in the bathroom? And the Be'er Halacha is a proof that we do mitzvahs in the bathroom, right? People wear tzitzis when they're in the bathroom. Is tzitzis not a mitzvah? Tzitzis is a mitzvah. So that's, the Be'er Halacha is a strong proof that it's okay. It's okay to do mitzvahs in the bathroom. All the Gemara says is that you can't think of Divrei Torah, and we're including that you can't think of thoughts of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But what's wrong with doing mitzvahs in the bathroom? So the Be'er Halacha, then he says there's actually two problems. Problem number one is that there's a halacha called mitzvah sichos kavana. When you do a mitzvah, you have to have kavana what the mitzvah is. So he says, when you have kavana to do a mitzvah, you think about that mitzvah, that's considered thinking divrei Torah. So that's why he says, right, this case of blowing the shofar in the bathroom, you're going to end up thinking about the mitzvah of shofar, because you have to think about the mitzvah when you do the mitzvah, and therefore that would be considered thinking divrei Torah in the bathroom. That's one issue, he says, with doing mitzvahs while you're using the bathroom. The second, he says, it's just a bizoi mitzvah. It's a disgraceful thing to do a mitzvah in the bathroom, right? He quotes another Gemara about cleaning the shofar. Alright, that when it comes to cleaning the shofar, you're not allowed to use meir raglayim to clean the shofar. Why not? What's the problem? It's not respectful to the mitzvah. Kal v'chomer, when you're using the bathroom, it's not respectful for the mitzvah to be using the bathroom when you do the mitzvah. But it's interesting because the Be'er Halacha didn't answer his original question. According to that, how can somebody wear tzitzis? How can somebody fulfill a mitzvah of tzitzis while he's using the bathroom? Right? Isn't it? Right? One, we hold this mitzvah suichas kavana, like you're having kavana for tzitzis, so that should be considered being mahar divrei Torah. And second, isn't it a bizoi mitzvah? So there's a sefer. It's called the Chevel Nachlaso. He deals with this a little bit, and he explains as follows. He says, if you look in the Ber Halacha, he really doesn't accept this chiddush of the Mata Ephraim that you can't do mitzvahs in the bathroom. He doesn't accept it. Even though he tries to explain it, he doesn't accept it, and in the end he says we should really follow it. But what's the case of Mata Ephraim talking about? Talking about blowing shofar, right? Because think about it. There's this guy, he has all day Rosh Hashanah to blow the shofar. So he goes to the bathroom. It doesn't hurt, right? It doesn't hurt to wait till you leave the bathroom to blow the shofar. So therefore, Ber Halacha says, yeah, just wait. And I'll even give you these two reasons why it's not a good thing. But when it comes to, let's say, the mitzvah of tzitzis, every second you wear tzitzis, you fulfill a mitzvah d'oraisa, right? So even though by shofar you're not losing anything if you don't blow the shofar in the bathroom, you're losing something if you take off tzitzis before you go to the bathroom, because you're losing that mitzvah d'oraisa while you're using the bathroom. So therefore he says that those two reasons, right? One, that mitzvah suichas kavana. Two, bizoi mitzvah. He's just explaining why the Mata Ephraim says it's din, but the Ber Halacha really doesn't accept it. He'll accept it by specifically by shofar, as we said, but not by other mitzvahs of tzitzis. Right? That's why if you look in the poskim talk about really two other shilas. They talk about Sfiras Omer. Let's say somebody forgets to count Sfiras Omer. Okay, so you forgot. So the halach is you have all day, but you only have the entire day. You don't have the next day. So let's say it's coming near the end of the day. You realize you didn't count Sfiras Omer yet, but you're using the bathroom, and you're still in the bathroom. So obviously you can't say bracha. You can't say Shem Hashem if you're in the bathroom, so you can't say the bracha. But maybe you could do the mitzvah, right? Because here in this case you have no other choice. It's not like the case of shofar when you have another choice to just do it after. Here's the last chance. So probably by Sfiras Omer, you probably could count. And another shaila that the post can talk about is, let's say somebody's in the bathroom. It's coming near the end of Shabbos, and there's toilet paper next to him, and seemingly you can't rip toilet paper on Shabbos. So he's in the bathroom near the end of Shabbos. Shabbos is ending. He's still in the bathroom. And we know that in order to end Shabbos, you have to say the words Baruch Hamavti Ben Kodesh L'chol. It's like a form of Havdalah. Before you do Malacha, you have to say the words Baruch Hamavti Ben Kodesh L'chol. So the post can talk about, like, what does this guy do here? He's in the bathroom. There's only toilet paper here. He doesn't want to whip the toilet paper because it's still Shabbos. But he could just end Shabbos by saying Baruch Hamavti Ben Kodesh L'chol. Can you say Baruch Hamavti Ben Kodesh L'chol, which is a form of Havdalah, which is a mitzvah, while he's in the bathroom? Okay, so the post can talk about that also. Okay, they have a long riches about that. What do they say to do then? Okay, you have to look. Okay, shkach.